what was your revelation that you mentioned? Oh, this is going to be so self-serving. And I haven't even done my community survey yet. On March 1st, I'll do it. I think that the only way that you can break people out of these bad media environments, I think it actually has to be, this is so self-serving, I'm so sorry, but I think it has to be done through debate. I think it's like the most important thing that you can possibly do. Because something that I realized, I was reflecting on my time at doing that show with Peter Boghossian, and as I'm arguing with people, like I realize what's happening. What's happening is they're getting a whole bunch of horrible information from whatever conservative commentator they listen to or centrist commentator they listen to. And then I can argue with them and I can pummel them and destroy every argument and be the debate god or whatever. But it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, they can go back and listen to that person. But I think it does something to your mind when you see your, and this is feedback I got a lot when I did debates in the past. It does something to your mind when you see your like information god be forced to actually confront something that he said that he can't defend when he's actually challenged on it. And then I realize as I'm reflecting on that, this is one of the reasons why all of these people try so hard to avoid actually debating the merits of any of their ideas, like the fucking plague. So people on the far left do it. Obviously, you have your Hassans. Everybody on the right does it because right now they have like the cultural power. But as long as you never get confronted on that, you can perpetually create an echo chamber that furthers basically whatever idea you want. Because at the end of the day, most of the stuff that people are talking about, there's actually no, it kind of plays into that other idea that I had, that as long as there's no factual reckoning to be done with the particular thing that's being spoken about, you can make whatever fucking claim you want about it, right? Like we could theoretically hold an election over whether or not there's blue elephants or pink giraffes on the dark side of the moon. And we can have that debate and we can debate it until we're blue in the face. And that's essentially what all of our political debates are over now. It's over whether or not there are elephants or giraffes on the dark side of the moon. Because at the end of the day, nobody really knows what's going on at the FDA. Nobody really knows what's happening in the government. Nobody really knows what's going on at the border. Nobody really knows what's going on in Ukraine and Russia. Nobody really knows the history of Israel. Like no one knows any of this shit. We just kind of like go on what the fucking media tells us for a lot of this stuff. And unless you actually see the person that you listen to, unless you see them being forced to confront somebody and defend that point, you just assume it's true because you're never going to learn otherwise, you know? But yeah. We haven't had any debates in a long time. Any big names planned soon? No, not yet. I don't think any conservatives are going to want to debate until we approach the midterms, and it looks like they're not going to win the midterms. But if that doesn't happen, then yeah, I imagine they'll probably continue to avoid having those debates. Because why would you? It's literally just potentially negative. What makes you think they won't win midterms? The general trajectory of the current administration, I think bad stuff is going to happen, but also the incumbent party just tends to not do well in midterms, you know? Destiny, what do you think about what Dr. K said on Bridges? The harder I try to understand their point, the harder they will try to understand mine in a truly empathetic way, because it seems very true to me, and I don't know why you don't do that more. I actually spoke to Dr. K a lot off stream about that topic. I don't think I'm like revealing anything. So he told me he has 17 wives. No, I'm just kidding. One thing that we reached at the end that was interesting, because the problem with a lot of Dr. K's advice is that, no, I shouldn't say the problem, is the applicability to what I do. I think that when Dr. K says that, I think that he is 100% correct when it comes to dealing with other people, like other human beings in your life. But I don't deal with like ordinary humans or ordinary people. I'm dealing with people online that have a vested interest in delivering a certain opinion. It's not, the incentives and the way you engage with them are not quite the same. And I joked with him at the end of one of our chats, and he was saying that like it would be interesting for him to get into doing like kind of political debate, just to see the difference in how people engage with each other, the differences. But I don't know if he would ever do that. That would be very funny, though. Can you name any prominent debates that Ben Shapiro had that made him go viral? I can't. It's all him steamrolling normal lefty people. You need to adopt that strategy. Yeah, but I don't know if I can ever be that guy, bro. That like, I'm going to go fucking annihilate these college kids. Like, it just feels so cringe. Do you think the midterms are going to be held normally? Do you think Trump might unironically start directly influencing the voting mechanisms to a degree where actual vote counts can be altered? Depends on how independent states maintain their voting stuff. But there's absolutely no reason why you should assume that the Trump administration won't try to cheat. Trump himself has tried to cheat an election before, so there's no reason to think he wouldn't try to do it again. So Someone in YouTube chat said, Destiny, my biggest question is, how are far-right people so on board with Trump when he is so openly an Israel simp? I've said this a lot, but remember, the anti-Israel, anti-Jew shit, that's mainly young people, and that's still fringe conservative stuff. Trump is like an authoritarian, fasci, quasi-fasci dude, but he's not. Trump himself is not anti-Semitic, or I've never seen an inkling of anti-Semitism from Donald Trump. He seems to squarely be like an old guy in the United States who's like a super Israeli simp, but all old people are Israeli simps. That's just super standard, like on the right or the left. The Art of the Deal ghostwriter mentions he was anti-Semitic. He thought Jews were good at business or something. That's, if we're going to call that anti-Semitism, then I would say he has like an ordinary level of anti-Semitism, in the same way that people who don't want to get in a math contest against Asians or whatever would be anti-Asian or whatever. Like, yeah. Why does Trump simp for Israel like old people, but he loves Russia? Old people I know hated Russia. That's just inexplicable. I don't know how you can explain the Republican Party move on that, other than a slow move away from foreign policy after Iraq and Afghanistan. That's the only thing I can think of. Wait, Destiny, unironically, it's been so long. How did this whole anti-vax stuff, specifically for COVID, even start? Was it because a couple people got myocarditis or something? I legit can't think of the major origin point or figure who started pushing it. I truly don't remember, actually. Remember, it's hard because like history gets rewritten by conservatives so much, but something you have to keep in mind, the idea that the vaccine is really bad and the idea that COVID is a joke, that's a new invention, or that came only after, I think it was Omicron is when that really started to take hold. In the beginning, everybody thought that COVID was really bad. That's why Cuomo got so much for putting an old person in a retirement home or whatever with COVID, because they're like, that's going to insta-kill every old person. And it's why people were saying like, oh my God, it came from China. It's a fucking bioweapon. Like it's coming to kill us. It's a bioweapon from China. And it was rough when old people got the first iteration of it. I don't know if you call it the alpha variant or just the original SARS-CoV-2 virus. It was rough. That was a rough time, and people felt like it was rough. But it's only as the variants have come out and they've been less lethal and just less, like the symptoms have just been less severe, that now people have rewritten history to be like, like COVID was always a joke. It was never a big deal. It was always kind of a stupid meme, you know? Yeah. Do you think people would have less of a problem with vaccines if it was a pill versus an injection? I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't have taken hold as much, maybe. It was a blessing and a curse that COVID was relatively benign relative to something like SARS-1. If people's kids were dying left and right, things would have been different. True. Why do parents give their kids horrible tasting liquid medicine when they could just take pills? Like if you're old enough to swallow your own food, you can take a pill. I don't know, actually. Maybe something to do with the bioavailability. Not all pills are as available to your intestines as like a liquid form version of a medication. Maybe. That's a total guess.